As far as I know, that nation operates in a judicial system.
Does their Archon personally judge people?
No, there's a Chief Justice in Fontaine. Generally speaking, the Hydro Archon, Focalor, won't preside over individual trials. However, even then, Focalor will still make herself present at just about every trial. It seems that she just likes to immerse herself in that sort of atmosphere. As Archon, she still reserves the right to influence the final verdict. Anyway, let's just say she's got, a very unique personality.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes my opening performance. Now, without further ado, we may proceed to the trial of our god.
So this is what it is. Yes, you deserve praise for the effort you took to raise the dramatic stakes. Do not forget, however, that I am Focalor, the god of justice, the embodiment of justice itself. Does it not strike you as even the least bit absurd to bring the very concept of justice to trial?
May I interpret these words as your refusal to stand trial? In that case, you will have the opportunity to defend your honor through a duel.
You would draw your blade against a god? I see. It seems like you have made up your mind.
Paimon can't believe it. She just surrendered.
What the heck is going on? Did I just see an Archon surrender to a...
Wow, how utterly humiliating.
Lady Furina, what is the meaning of this?
It would seem that there has been a misunderstanding. To be clear, the raising of both hands is not always an indication of surrender.
Looking for excuses again, huh?
I raised my hands just now to indicate my acceptance of the trial. No duel shall be necessary. I will admit that I've been running away for a long time. I'm sorry, everyone. I was unable to protect the people of Poisson. It is my duty to stand trial for my crimes. You are not the only ones to be disappointed in me. I, too, am exceedingly disappointed in myself. But now, it is time for the Hydro Archon to show you her courage and resolve. I, Furina, will use this trial to show the world the true meaning of justice! This time, I will protect you. Applaud and rejoice! One of the most outrageous and fantastical arcs known to the opera epiclese is now unfolding before your eye. Mark my words, this shall be one of the most exhilarating and brilliant shows ever to grace the stage of Fontaine! The trial of the Hydro Archon, Focalor, will now begin!
Woohoo!
Oh, now we're making history!
Why does it feel like Furina just took over the whole thing? Like, come on! Didn't she just get forced to stand trial for her crime? Also, even though she's still acting super dramatic, she is taking this seriously this time, right?
All right, then. Who will be my opponent in this trial?
The court asks the prosecutor to please take the stand.
Is that so? Very well. Then please speak, witness of Tivat, my accuser and fated opponent. Also, please allow me to ask, as a final question before the trial begins, just how much work did you do to force me onto this stage?
Well, we did do a lot of prep after the meeting that day.
I can go over the tasks assigned to the Spina di Rosula, since they were rather straightforward and easy.
Navia, the president of the Spina di Rosula.
Most of the people who participated in the disturbance this morning were my subordinates. They changed into plain clothes and came to the Opera House as regular audience members, waiting for the perfect opportunity to incite insurrection against you. The people's resentment against their Archon has been building as more and more of the prophecy is fulfilled. A spark was all we needed to turn smoldering anger into a flame. Moreover, according to our understanding and analysis of you, when something like that occurred, you would likely flee the scene and head to Poisson by yourself. So, we arranged for a second group to lie in wait there.
So, you mean, the ones who scoured the settlement for me were also from the Spina?
And their goal was to force you to step into the giant magic box so you may personally participate in the greatest magic performance in all of Fontainian history.
That's right. That house was a magic box, rather than someone's residence.
As the super ultimate version of the setup that I used when I first performed at the Opera Epiclese, the volume of the box was increased by a whole order of magnitude, and the distance it traversed was the entire gap between Poisson and Aranias. Its cargo, of course, was an Archon instead of a human. My thanks, Furina. Without your help, we could never have pulled off such an extraordinary performance.
You're welcome?
Of course, this performance was only made possible with Father's support. The House of the Hearth spent a massive amount of labor in Mora to pull this off. We had to select a location, construct the giant magic box, dig a tunnel, and open up a path through the water. It was a lot of work for all of us.
So, in other words, the earthquake that we felt within the giant magic box was just a normal tremor from the transportation of the whole house?
That's right. It wasn't a sign of another disaster to come.
Then, I can guess Nervilette and Cloran's parts. You gathered a crowd, prepared a stage, and made sure that the champion duelist would be immediately ready for a fight. Also that as soon as I appeared on the stage, the trial may commence without a hitch. Am I right?
Yes, that is correct.
Well, Clorand, I must commend you for your courage. Only the most outstanding champion duelist in all of Fontaine would accept a duel with an Archon without flinching.
Thank you.
As for you, Traveler, I suppose your role was to keep me distracted with conversation once you found me in Poisson. You'd make sure that I didn't notice anything amiss before revealing yourself as my prosecutor once we'd arrived onto the stage. Oh? Is that so? Then I suppose I must have missed my final chance. It's fine. It matters not. What's done is done. The stage is already set, so there's no reason to disappoint the audience. Let's see this trial through to the very end.
Madam Prosecutor, please allow me to pass this along. This is a document that Miss Charlotte applied for and received permission to share with you during the trial. According to her, it should speed up the proceedings.
Huh? Charlotte wanted to give us something? Oh, so she's here too! Hey, Oh, let Paimon see. isn't this the exclusive interview that she did with us before? So she's already finished it, huh? Wait, then that means this document is a perfect timeline of everything that's happened ever since we stepped foot in Fontaine! So in other words, we can refer to this anthology of evidence every time we want to use something from our journey as evidence for an argument! Let's quickly confirm the information in it. Just think of it as a refresher, alright?
You defeated the Hydro Archon in the very first duel you took part in at the Opera House. That's one for the history books, all right.
The prosecution and the defense are both in position. The trial shall now begin.
Oh, come on, Nervylette. There's no need to repeat all the unimportant legalese. Just fast forward to the part where the prosecution lays out my offenses. As the defendant and the lead actress of this performance, I still haven't even been informed of my supposed guilt in all of this. Of course, it is only natural for humans to struggle to understand the actions of a god. However, you will need more than that to convict me of a crime.
That's true, but my charge here is unrelated to your conduct as an Archon. Instead, I would like to charge you as a fraud who's never been the Archon in the first place.
Wait, what was that? Lady Furina's a fraud?
Hey, I came here thinking that we were going to try the Hydro Archon for forsaking her duty, but did I hear that right? She's not our Archon at all?
Charge accepted. Lady Furina, do you plead guilty to the charge? Lady Furina.
I plead not guilty. How can I be guilty? There is no way that I, Focalor, otherwise known as Furina de Fontaine, a member of the Seven and the Regina of all waters, kindreds, peoples, and laws of Fontaine, could be anything other than your true Archon.
Yeah, even though Lady Furina can be rather eccentric, isn't it going too far to doubt her very identity?
Yeah, I've never questioned her identity either. Sure, Lady Furina can be super irresponsible, but what grounds does that prosecutor have to make such a huge claim?
I have cause to believe that common sense will prevail in this case. Many of the members of the audience have known me as the Hydro Archon ever since they were born. There would be no fooling their memory. See? Even the Oratrice has decided to show me its favor. Are you sure you want to commit to a charge that will never be upheld? If you wish to drop the case, I can promise you as the God of Justice that you will not have to face trial for making a false accusation. We will treat everything that's happened as a dramatic spectacle and move on with our lives.
An argument with near impossible odds, huh? We have to not only refute Furina's claims, but also overturn the long-held beliefs of the people.
Well, I tried to give you the chance to surrender. If you must persist, then let me ask. If you believe I'm not the Archon, then what manner of being do you think I am? And if I was not the Archon, then how did I manage to live for over 500 years?
First of all, you may be a member of another long-lived race, which would allow you to naturally possess an extended lifespan. And second of all, even if that wasn't the case, there could be other ways to extend your life.
Who gave you that idea? Was it the knave? You'd sink so low as to use a harbinger's words against me.
A curse? I once thought it possible that the aura of an Archon might naturally resemble a type of curse. But in light of this claim, perhaps what I sensed was not your divinity, but a curse after all.
Nervylette sensed it too, huh?
Lady Furina, is actually a human?
Well, it is true that it's extremely difficult to tell humans and gods apart just by looking at them.
Well, don't start celebrating too early now. Even if I have been carrying a curse like you said, how does that prove that I am merely a human being? Besides, everyone knows that the main difference between a human and a god is the possession of authority. Gods can do what humans cannot. That's why they're worshipped as gods. For centuries, manifestations of my authority have served the nation of Fontaine. One need only to turn their eyes towards the Oratrice Mécanique d'Analyse Cardinal in this very opera house, or consider the indemnitium that is used in every aspect of life.
Reference the Oratrice. But weren't you as confused as all the rest of us when the Oratrice declared Child to be guilty without any proof? Otherwise, you should have come up with a good explanation for that by now.
Didn't I make myself clear at the time? The decisions of the gods are naturally difficult for humans to comprehend. There is no need to provide an explanation.
Lady Furina, I believe a reminder of your current circumstances is in order. While the court is in session, the principles of justice and the law must come before all else. While you are an Archon, you are also first and foremost the defendant in this trial. You will prove yourself unable to defend against the prosecution's charges if you continue to withhold vital information against the rules of the court.
I never thought you'd use that kind of rhetoric against me.
That was no trick of rhetoric, Lady Furina. I've merely reiterated the rules of the court. Rules that all should respect and follow.
So, you neither knew why Child was declared guilty, nor did you understand the structure and operations of the Oratrice. Instead of having been created by you, the manifestations of authority you mentioned have been made by the real Hydro Archon, haven't they?
The real Hydro Archon? Well, now you're really losing me. It is true that I did not know why the Oratrice gave out a guilty verdict that day. But the Oratrice handed out that verdict unilaterally, and it has been operating independently ever since it was first created. You can't argue that just because a divine creation is flawed, that the god behind it must also be no god at all.
She's still throwing out all kinds of excuses. Seems like she's confident that we won't be able to produce proof that she has no power over the Oratrice.
My power as an Archon. There are many ordinary citizens in the audience. How can I just carelessly demonstrate the formidable power of an Archon?
If that poses a concern, I'm prepared to extend my protection to the audience.
You don't need to go that far.
Aren't you the Hydro Archon? Or is it that you can't even wield the power of Hydro, much less the authority of a god?
Indemnitium! Yes! It's all because of Indemnitium! All Archons derive their power from the faith of the people, and I've converted the people's faith in justice into Indemnitium. Thus did I give up all of my divine power to provide everyone with energy for their daily lives. Have you ever seen a more magnanimous god?
Isn't that a huge stretch?
Yeah, no matter how generous an Archon can be, how could they give up all their power? Can a god with no power even still be called a god?
It seems like nobody's buying Furina's excuse.
Hey, come now, everyone. Please don't stare at me as if I was a liar. I'm still the same Furina you knew, right? The one that you loved. Shouldn't you want to believe in me? Please? You've got to believe me.
If what the prosecutor said is true, she really has committed a grave offense.
Did she deceive all of us?
And all of our parents and grandparents too? And all of our ancestors? Ever since they were born?
Enough! That's enough. Tell me then, if I'm not the real Hydro Archon, then who is? If you have no evidence of another Hydro Archon's existence, nor can you find anyone who can back up their claim to be such, then what grounds have you to say that I'm not actually the real deal?
Wow, she came up with yet another argument. How can we refute her now? Seems like she really doesn't want to give up. It has been established that all Fontainians can dissolve in water from the primordial sea. And that means...
Since you insist on claiming to be a god and not a human, then there's a method that you can use right here and now to eliminate all suspicions of you being the latter.
Miss Navia, please apply to serve as a temporary attorney for the prosecution before addressing the court. Though you act in partnership with the prosecutor, you must still adhere to proper procedure.
Super sorry, Monsieur Chief Justice. I swear this really will be the last time that I'll speak out of turn. Now, I've brought some seawater from Poisson. As everyone knows, a massive flood struck the area not long ago, taking many lives, including those of some of my closest friends. So, Miss Furina, would you dare to touch some of this seawater? If we are to believe that you are indeed the real Hydro Archon, touching this seawater would have no effect on you. All it should do is strengthen your case. But if you don't dare to touch it, then we would have basically proved the reverse. Oh, and I must remind you that after the disaster at Poisson, nobody wants to see any more people dissolve. I do hope you'll act prudently and choose the simpler path of admitting guilt.
Navia from the Spina di Rasula. The Spina has governed Poisson for many years. I guess her suggestion is valid.
If Lady Furina is indeed just a human, she's probably Fontainian like all the rest of us. Would she really dare to try?
Lady Furina, this test has been unilaterally proposed by the prosecution. As it falls outside the realm of standard court proceedings, you possess the right to decline participation.
Well, of course he had to tell her that. But refusing to participate is basically the same as a confession of guilt.
She's just staring at the water without saying a single word. It really does seem like she's quite terrified of it. That could only mean...
What's going on? Is she really planning to... That's not what we thought she would...
Due to the inherent risk of the test, Lady Furina, you may...
What?
Hey!
I'm fine! Look at me, everyone! My hand is still here! I haven't been dissolved! Will you believe me now? I really am your Archon! I'm nothing like a normal human who would fall apart as soon as they touch this water! Really? Was this not the most obvious thing in the world?
Miss Siegewin? If you're present, Miss Siegewin, please come forward and attend to the defendant.
Siegewin?
Don't be nervous. It'll just take a few seconds. Let me see. That should be enough.
Please announce the results of your evaluation to the court, Miss Siegewin.
As everyone doubtlessly saw, Miss Furina was displaying symptoms of hyperventilation and flushed skin. These indicate that she was experiencing the adverse effects of exposure to primordial seawater. The extent to which she was affected is the same as other humans when exposed to primordial seawater of a similar concentration.
Thank you, Miss Siegewin. Lady Furina, you may return to the defendant's stand.
Oh wait, what did she just say? I didn't get dissolved! Shouldn't that be enough to prove my innocence?
Well, considering your tendency to run from your problems, we did originally prepare a direct sample of the seawater around Poisson. However, after extensive discussion, we exchanged it for a sample that is not concentrated enough to dissolve an actual human. After all, on the off chance that something entirely unexpected we don't want anyone else to lose their life to the sea.
Yeah, so out of regard for Furina's life, you secured a low-concentration sample and asked the head nurse to serve as an expert witness. It's a great thing that the direct sample wasn't actually used. Furina could have...
I can't believe... you... Listen to me, everyone! Please don't give me such cold and disdainful looks! What happened just now didn't prove a single thing! Think about it! How can you conclusively prove that an Archon can't also be affected by the primordial seawater? Also, if I was really just a human, why would I dare to just put my hand in that kind of water? Please, anyone, just listen to me! I swear, I really am your Archon!
I don't think anything she says at this point will sway anyone. The odds are just too stacked against her now.
With all the things that have been said, Paimon doesn't think there's any way left for Furina to win.
I believe the time for arguments and presentation of evidence has come to an end. If there are no objections, we will move on to the final judgment.
I don't think anything she says at this point will sway her. She's too stacked against her now.
In my capacity as Chief Justice, I shall now render judgment on Furina's misrepresentation of herself as the Archon of Fontaine. As a human who knowingly deceived her fellow citizens, Furina is... guilty. We shall now turn to the Oratrice Mécanique d'Analyse Cardinale to render the final verdict on the charges. According to the judgment of the Oratrice Mécanique d'Analyse Cardinale, Furina is...
Well, what's wrong? What's the Oratrice's verdict?
No, the Oratrice also displays a guilty verdict.
Isn't that correct then?
However, the exact wording of the verdict is thus: the Hydro Archon, guilty to be punished via the death sentence.
The death... That's actually one of the available sentences? I've always thought that it was just a myth.
The one and only time the death sentence has been handed out at the court, and it's been given to the very person we've worshipped as the god of justice? What an
Furina's been sentenced to death by the Oratrice? We just wanted to use the trial to show her the seriousness of things so she'd tell us the truth. How did things escalate this quickly?
This outcome is indeed quite strange. According to Fontaine's current definitions of justice, as well as its recommendations for criminal sentences, is this sentence really appropriate for the crimes that have been committed?
Yeah! Even Fauché wasn't sentenced to death by the Oratrice. You the real evil mastermind behind the serial disappearances case.
Indeed. Not only is Furina's sentence overly excessive, the very point of our trial today was also to prove that Furina has never been the Hydro Archon in the first place. But now, the Aura Tree seems to have deliberately invoked the title of the Hydro Archon. What does this mean?
Excuse me, if I may interrupt. Is the trial still going?
Fremine! Oh, you finally made it. I assume this means you've completed your mission?
Mm-hmm. Any mission Father assigns to me will always be top priority.
Is that the first prophecy slate? Huh. So the knave privately arranged for Fremine to try and find the missing slate.
I looked everywhere and finally found it at the bottom of the sea. It took me a long time to get around some dangerous stretches of water. But has the trial already concluded? Then doesn't that mean I've come too late? Oh no. Father will be disappointed in me.
Thank you for your hard work, Mr. Fremine. Please allow me to review the record left on the slate. Traveler, I believe that you have already seen the other existing slates, and would like you to come here and confirm their content.
Huh? So what do you see? What is it?
I believe I have now made sense of the Hydro Archon's crime. It has to do with Fontaine's lost history.
Huh? Isn't the Hydro Archon just guilty of deceiving her people? Oh, wait, no, that's Furina, and we've already proven that she's not the Hydro Archon. So the Hydro Archon, do you mean the real Hydro Archon we've been kinda talking about?
In truth, everything that you've encountered in Fontaine up until this point can be traced back to the contents of these stone slates. However, I'm uncertain as to how much sense they currently make to you.
Okay, let's try to recall the contents of the other 3 stone slates. Paimon will do her best to help you remember. The first stone slate describes what you just said. It seems to show the previous Hydro Archon using her divine power, and then the Oceanids turn into humans. Does that mean that Fontainians are transformed Oceanids? Oh, Paimon wasn't expecting that. But if Oceanids can turn into humans, then perhaps this process can be reversed as well. The second stone slate shows Celestia floating in the sky, and the Hydro Archon and her people worshipping it together. But the heavens still brought judgment down upon them. This must be the point when the Hydro Archon and the Fontainians were branded with their original sin. Does this mean that the original sin and the Hydro Archon sin are the same thing? The third slate shows the Hydro Archon sinking into the sea surrounded by many people. That reminds Paimon, didn't we also watch that happen to someone else? Well, the fourth slate is the prophecy the Fontainians have been talking about. People dissolving into the sea, the Hydro Archon crying on her throne, and so on. We didn't believe that such a crazy disaster could happen at first, did we? But after that incident, it was just a question of when and not if.
In any case, you came at a good time. I was just considering reaching out to you to set up a meeting, so I may explain some things that I haven't had the time to before.
Aw, Paimon's glad that you remembered. Thank you for keeping us on your mind, what with you being busy and all. Alright, let's have it then. How was Fontaine actually saved? The whole business is still quite the mystery to us.
It is strange how words can often leave a bitter taste in the mouth when it finally comes time to say them out loud.
Whoa. So that's what happened? Focalor destroyed the divine throne of the Hydro Archon and restored your power to you, transforming you into a fully fledged elemental dragon sovereign! But Paimon still doesn't quite get what you did to save the Fontainians from dissolving.
For me, the authority of the ancient dragons refers to absolute control over the hydro element. Fontainians were incomplete humans born of Egeria's use of the power of the primordial sea, with constitutions similar to that of mimics. But so long as those primordial energies remain within them, I could use the ancient dragon's authority to grant them true blood, after the fashion in which life was first brought into being on this planet. In other words, when I gave my verdict, Fontainians became true humans, and thus would naturally no longer be dissolved by water from the primordial sea.
Focalor must have counted on you to make that decision as well. Your verdict was the key to making the prophecy appear to have come true while saving everyone. Yeah, and in a manner of speaking, Focalor finally managed to fulfill the original Hydro Archon's wish to turn Oceanids into real people too!
It seems from your expressions that you still have more things you wish to ask. Ask away. I will tell you the truth as I know it. I have investigated his case along many avenues, and I have learned that he once fell into an unknown chasm when he was young. There, by chance, he awakened the all-devouring narwhal. But whether it be by sentiment or reason, that should not have been enough to consider him the root cause of the disaster. At most, he would have had tangential liability. As for the judgment passed by the Oratrice during the trial, whether it was due to that liability by association, or Focalor deliberately using him to buy time for us on the assumption that he would be able to hold the creature off, I cannot say.
Guess Focalor had Fontainians in mind the whole time. In the end, it was thanks to her that they finally became real humans. Hang on a second. Paimon suddenly got another question. Back when Fontainians hadn't yet become real humans, were the children they had also transformed Oceanids?
Life has always flowed like water. Do you recall how Fontainians would often come to the Fountain of Lucine to pray for children?
Yeah, Lynette said the fountain is where all the waters in Fontaine converge.
In truth, even those couples did not know that such prayers were no mere custom, but instead a form of ritual. Those Oceanids who were blessed within the spring water would later descend as new humans in the coming months.
Paimon sorta gets it now. Either way, it seems like this ritual won't be of any further use, but it'll probably live on as a local custom.
Ask away. I will tell you the truth as I know it.
Yeah, about that. Risley said Furina has already left. What's that all about?
Ah, Lady Furina. The people are only aware that her death sentence has not been carried out. She abdicated the post of Hydro Archon and left affairs related to that title to me, before leaving the Opera House. I related Focalor's words to her faithfully and completely. After hearing them, she seemed neither saddened nor comforted. She simply said that she was tired and needed to rest. Having said that, she then packed her things and moved out of the Opera House, not unlike how an ordinary person might.
But she's still got a place to stay, right?
You need not worry. I will make arrangements to ensure that she will not want for food, clothing, board, or travel. In truth, I am somewhat happy for her. The wear and tear on her spirit will, of course, take time to heal. But now that she no longer has to play the role of Focalor the Hydro Archon, she can finally lay down her burdens and lead a normal life.
What about you then? What are your plans now that you've regained your full powers as the Hydro Dragon?
After Focalor passed on, the Oratrice also ceased to function. This matter will directly affect our trials. After much careful consideration, I've decided to take over its role in our courts. From now on, I shall hear cases and pass verdicts by myself.
Looks like you're still considering stuff from the perspective of the Udex, huh?
As an elemental dragon, there are indeed many things that I must do. But this power and this duty in a manner of speaking, you could say that both were granted to me. As such, before I attend to my other responsibilities, I must first and foremost continue to serve Fontaine as its highest judge. The duty of the Hydro Sovereign and the duty of the Iudex shall coexist within my person. Additionally, the Hydro Archon's departure has brought about another problem, which is that the Opera House shall no longer produce indemnitium.
That's true. That power was derived from the people's faith in the Hydro Archon, wasn't it? Wait, but the various mechs and machines in the city are all still okay. Where are they getting their energy from?
As I am now, I have full command over New Musia, and it can serve as a complete substitute. Another reason why I cannot quite leave Fontaine immediately.
Wow. This ancient dragon's authority stuff is really quite useful, huh?
Ask away. I will tell you the truth as I know it.
Oh, that's right! They say you've given it to the knave as a diplomatic gift or something!
Leaving aside their intentionality, the two Fatui Harbingers have indeed done much for us during this crisis. Their sole remaining goal in Fontaine, at least at this point, would seem to be the Gnosis. The Oratrice has ceased to function. The Hydro Archon's divine throne is now no more, and I do not need the Gnosis's power. As such, it has lost all meaning for Fontaine. If the Fatui have impure designs, then we might as well accede to their request now, and avoid unnecessary conflict.
What complicated considerations! Paimon thought you were just giving it to them out of gratitude to the knave and as an apology to Child.
Ask away. I will tell you the truth as I know it. You will soon be heading to Natlan, I presume. I'm afraid that I have little talent as a travel guide, so all I can do is tell you what I know about that land. As far as I'm aware, Natlan can be said to be a nation of dragons.
A nation of dragons? You mean like you?
No, I suspect that I would not find myself welcome there. Unlike ancient dragons such as myself, the dragons of Natlan have undergone long years of development and evolution. Large numbers of them have entered a form of coexistence with humanity. Natlan is also the nation of war. War ravages those lands like an undying flame. There is one other piece of information I got incidentally from my negotiations with the knave that I believe may be useful to you. The Harbinger known as the Captain has thrown his hat into the endless ring of war.
The Captain. Sounds like a real tough customer. Seriously, everywhere you look, there's a Fatui Harbinger doing their thing.
I suggest that you fully prepare yourself before going to Natlan. In the meantime, Fontaine's doors will always be open to you. Ask away. I will tell you the truth as I know it.
Hang on a sec. Paimon's still got a question about the Gnosis. When we spoke to Linny earlier, he mentioned that your attitude towards giving away the Gnosis had clearly changed. We guessed that there might be some reason for it that only you were aware of.
No wonder the House of the Hearth is the Fatui's intelligence division. They are certainly sharp. So regarding this specific issue, I was just getting ready to share something with you.
What?
In truth, I exchanged some further words with that lady named Skirk after sending you two back to the surface. It went something like this.
Well, we're going to head topside to see what's going on. You hurry over soon as well, all right, Nervalet?
What next?
The all-devouring narwhal isn't here, so I'm no longer getting any interference. I can finally catch the scent of your power, what it's made of. It is the authority of the planet's primordial dragons, but with something very similar to a god's curse mixed in. It's quite a novel blend. I'm sure I've encountered something like this before. What was it again?
I do not know what you speak of.
Of course. How could I forget? You should have the remains of the third descender on your person, yes?
Remains? I've never heard of any such thing.
According to your parlance, I believe it may be called a gnosis.
Well, that much is true. After Focalor's divinity faded, she handed her gnosis to me. But I fear I have never heard of it described in the manner that you just did.
I've been training with my master, the Fowl, ever since I was young, and I have never returned to the surface since. So most of the information I possess, I got from him. It is only natural for those who are greater than humanity to possess a different sort of common sense, which is why there are so many problems in our attempts to communicate with humans. Regardless, you should probably get rid of objects of misfortune to prevent any disasters from befalling you. To live in itself is a blessing. But once a person dies, the bonds he once had with this world shall all turn to curses.
What do you mean by that?
No need to fret. These are just my personal thoughts, and my reason for no longer wishing to return to the surface.
This third descender you refer to, who are they? And when did they die?
Master never mentioned them to me. Perhaps it just wasn't that important for me to know. If you're interested, though, I could ask him. I'll be sure to pass the answer on to you next time.
Next time? You believe we will meet again?
I do. Wait. I have a disciple of my own, don't I? He can be the messenger then.
That's what she told me. Whether it would prove useful or not, I wanted to pass that information on to you.
The remains of the third descender? So that's what the Gnosis actually are. Paimon just thought they looked like chess pieces. How could they be a person's remains?
All the same, assuming that there was no misunderstanding or special metaphor at play, that is what she meant to say.
And she said that it would bring misfortune and that you should check it, which is why you gave it to the Fatui.
If she speaks the truth, then I would simply be putting Fontaine at unnecessary risk by keeping it here. I had guessed that you might already be familiar with this concept, but I did not expect you to be one of them. That means that the Gnosis, which are exceedingly element-compatible and can even enhance elemental abilities, do indeed come from the third descender. I wonder, does your body also possess similar properties?
Like being able to use elemental powers without a vision! That does sort of count as special compatibility, right? No, let's not think about this stuff right now. It just feels creepy, comparing the Traveler to the dead third descender and all. That's what you say, but this topic still feels like bad luck. Once Child recovers, let's get some more answers out of him. Or go look for his master and get the answers that way.
I too believe it unwise to make too many blind guesses when information is lacking. The same is true of being at court.
Alright. Whatever the case, it seems like the crisis here in Fontaine's over for now.
Yes. All of Focalor's efforts were for this moment as well.
But she sacrificed herself in the end as a god, and she suffered through all those years as a human. Was that really what she wanted?
I suppose that would be the mystery of a god's will. I suspect not. But once in a while I too would guess that if wishes were like the clouds in the sky, they will one day return to the earth as raindrops. Life flows like water, and rain is the final answer. The water levels may sometimes tilt one way or another, but the rain falls fairly upon all. And what, ultimately, is the difference between the rains that fall upon all of us?